So good afternoon, dear participants. My name is Guncel Vara. I'm a PhD candidate at Middle East Technical University in Türkiye, and on behalf of my fellow authors Guzide, Atasoy, and Sevgi, Ozkan, I am today here to present our research titled A Conceptual Framework to Leverage Technology Acceptance Models for Digital Twin Acceptance and Adoption in the Construction Industry. Let me begin with the outline of this presentation. I will do a brief introduction. Then I will talk about the research background and motivation for this study. Then I will lay out the methodology and the findings for this study. Then I will share with you our proposed framework. And finally, I will conclude and give you some remarks about the future work related to this research. First of all, construction projects are larger in scale today, nowadays, and it is also growing because we have growing needs for built environment and infrastructure in general. And construction projects, as you know, are unique in their nature. And when you combine this with large-scale implementations, we get greater complexity, which in turn brings about significant challenges in terms of budget, time, and quality requirements. Therefore, we need some novel technologies and methodologies to tackle these challenges. But as you know, we have digital twins nowadays. We are talking about them, and they can remedy these problems because they can leverage data-driven concepts such as IoT, big data, and AI. And also, they can be employed for informed decision-making. We are planning simulations, forecasts, and performance optimizations. But sadly, DTs have not reached the state of widespread use in the companies operating within the construction industry. And this brings us to the motivation of our study, actually, because there are some challenges related to the widespread adoption of digital twins. We categorize them as internal and external ones. Let me share some primary ones. For example, for the internal challenges, we have a conceptual confusion among digital model, shadow, and twin concepts. We have data interoperability issues, and also we have organizational resistance and shortage of skilled professionals who can use digital twin technology effectively. As for the primary external challenges, we have regulatory constraints related to data privacy, security, and compliance in general, and also we have cybersecurity challenges. Of course, these challenges are not limited to these, but these are the primary ones. Therefore, we thought that these barriers are discussed widely in the literature, but DT is an information technology, actually. So there is a broad literature on information technology, actually, and we thought that these barriers and challenges have not been extensively discussed in this context. So we thought that perhaps we can do that to find better solutions to adoption. When we talk about information technology acceptance and adoption, it is investigated by means of some models related to the communication theory in general. And there are some models and approaches developed for this purpose. And these models usually incorporate elements known as constructs, which are here to explain and predict organizational and individual or user level behaviors in certain contexts. And each construct is then measured by using scale items or questionnaire items, questions, to evaluate user responses to some predefined cases and scenarios under these constructs. And now let me give you some examples of prominent information technology models. For example, there is the technology acceptance model by Davis. It is a very old and very established model, actually. It gives us some insights into the perceived use and ease of use of a given technology and the subsequent behavioral intention to use that technology. We have Innovation Diffusion Theory by Rogers and others. Actually, it seems to 2014, but it is actually an older model, but it is updated in time, so that is why it seems new. So it identifies the users and the behaviors in different categories, as you can see, such as compatibility, complexity of the technology. And also we have Unified Theory of Acceptance and Use of Technology by Venkatesh and others. This model predicts user intentions and behaviors across different contexts, mostly social contexts within the organizations. And these models can help us actually find solutions to technology acceptance and adoption. So these models have been implemented in various industries for the acceptance of new technologies. So we thought that these models can similarly be adapted to our industry as well. So therefore, in this study, we will propose a novel technology acceptance model framework for digital twin acceptance and adoption in the construction industry. And our model is based on technology acceptance model by Davis, and also we have an additional construct taken from another theory in the literature, which is Innovation Diffusion Theory, which I will explain in a minute in detail. And our model or conceptual framework is intended to assess the understanding of the barriers of digital twin adoption by mapping these barriers to user and organization level constructs so that we can identify the pain points in the way of their acceptance and adoption in construction companies. Let's move on to the methodology now. We have conducted 2 systematic literature reviews by following the PRISMA guidelines to get a systematic review. Scopus and Web of Science databases were screened. And in our first round, we used the digital twin related keywords, but we have found out that out of the 62 eligible studies, only 8 of them were discussing digital twin acceptance within the context of information technology acceptance models, pointing out the scarcity of studies in this field. But while we were talking, we were actually examining these papers, we have found out that DTs were found to be the natural successor of building information modeling when we think about the challenges that they try to address. So this gave us an idea. Therefore, we conducted a second round of literature review. This time replaced the keywords with about digital twin with keywords related to the BIM. Okay. And then we have found out that there was a total of 100 papers discussing BIM acceptance and adoption within the context of information technology acceptance. Also, we have used separate keywords to ditch some of the papers which are discussing the barriers, but not within this context because it is discussed a lot, but most of the time they're not about information technology acceptance. And we have found out that the majority of the included studies were actually involved in the technology acceptance model and innovation diffusion theory. And these are the eight papers that we have found out after our first round of research related to digital twins actually. We have found out that mostly they use technology acceptance model or task technology fit models, but the results did not provide an adequate variety of constructs, scale items, and evaluation methods. And also, if you can see from this table, these studies were much narrower in scope because we are trying to create or propose a more general model applicable to many life cycle stages and many different applications within the construction industry. And also constructs used in these studies were mostly excluding company-level interactions with the technology. They were mostly confined to the user-level interactions, but we wanted to also include the organizational level considerations. And out of the models, UTOUT only has social influence constructs. They are also confined to peer interactions. And we also found out that TEM hybrids were found to be created for BIM acceptance and adoption in the industry, and we thought that we can adapt them to digital twin acceptance actually. And to do that, we wanted to borrow some organization level constructs from other models, examined them, and we found out that in our second literature review, IDT was widely used to cover organization level constructs, so therefore we wanted to combine technology acceptance model and innovation diffusion theory. And this brings us to the proposed framework. We propose an integrated TEM-IDT model for studying DT acceptance. In addition to the technology acceptance model constructs, which I will show you in a minute, we also included the compatibility construct from IDT, which is expected to reflect the impact of challenges on construction companies through user responses. And this is the proposed framework. Let me guide you through this. So all the colored boxes you see in this model are our constructs. They are pretty intuitive in their meanings. You can check the definitions of them from these boxes. For example, compatibility, the degree to which an innovation is regarded consistent with the existing values of a company or adopters in this case. And all the arrows among these constructs actually indicate their connections because they have relationships and interactions between them, finally leading to the actual system use or actual use of the technology actually. And these connections are in the information technology acceptance literature actually described by some hypotheses. But these hypotheses are actually not our hypotheses. These are actually taken from the literature because these are established and already tested hypotheses. So that is why we have referred to the literature to actually introduce these hypotheses. And all the arrows actually indicate a relationship between those two ends of the arrow, each of them a construct. And for all these relationships, we have assumed a positive influence. For example, if you can just follow this, between the compatibility and attitude towards behavior, we have an hypothesis stating that compatibility of DTs positively influences the attitude towards digital twin technology use. So these hypotheses are actually mapping these relationships, and we can test them by using statistical analyses. So let me come to the conclusion and the future work. This proposed conceptual framework is expected to leverage the strengths of both the involved theories. We have not tested this empirically yet, but we are actually in progress of doing it. Scale items tested by researchers, or scale items are the questionnaire questions, by the way, tested by literature are examination for selection, and the final selection of the scale items will be converted into a questionnaire form and disseminated among a diverse group of professionals within the construction industry who are who we expect to use digital twin technology in the future. And also we will consider the use of other constructs from the IT acceptance literature, such as performance expectancy, effort expectancy, and computer self-efficacy to enhance user level coverage. And finally, this is where we are at the moment with our study. The boxes you see contain the scale items. They are in forms of questions. For example, for compatibility, again, the questions are intuitive as much as the constructs themselves. For example, using DT technology fits into my work style. These questions are, of course, from the point of view of potential users. So this is an introductory selection of scale items, but depending on the constructs we would like to use, we will decide to use. We expect these items to change. Then we will disseminate them among the users that we select in the focus group, actually retrieve the results and do some statistical analyses to find out the possible pain points to provide some solutions. So this is all. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them.